Some things just don't add up. Curious conversations and calm minds. This is Unexplained and Unbothered, and I am your host, Siren. Welcome back to Unexplained and Unbothered, everybody. I hope that you guys really enjoyed the first episode of Unexplained and Unbothered. I know it was a little bit of a short episode, but I wanted to start off the podcast with something that really would make you guys sit and think, and that episode was short, but I bet it definitely made you guys think and made you guys really, really go down that rabbit hole. So let me know what you guys thought of the episode. I would love to hear your thoughts. Today's episode is a little bit different. We are talking about a true crime case. And if you guys know me, you guys know that I love a good true crime case. And today's episode is actually all about a video. It's not talking about a crime scene. It's not talking about evidence that was found years later, although that would be very, very interesting for this case. It's simply a video. This video is actually one that was probably watched by millions of people. One that a lot of people analyzed and even slowed down frame by frame. And it's a video that can't fully, even to this day, be explained. This is the case of Elisa Lam, and the elevator footage that turned a missing person into one of the internet's most debated mysteries. Now, before we start this episode, I do want to make sure that you guys are aware that this episode is meant to be discussed very respectfully, and we are not here to accuse, diagnose, or sensationalize anything at all. We are here to just really try to understand what made this case so unsettling, because sometimes what disturbs us the most isn't actually violence, although obviously violence does make my stomach churn. What makes the story even more eerie, it's the uncertainty that comes with it. Elisa Lam, who was she? Elisa Lam was a 21-year-old college student from Vancouver, Canada. She was said to be very outgoing, very thoughtful. She was very active online, and she even wrote a Tumblr blog. And I don't know about you, and I might be dating myself, but I remember the hype that was Tumblr, okay? Back in like 2010 up to like 2016, like Tumblr was huge, okay? And I myself never had a Tumblr blog, but I loved Tumblr. I loved how fun it was. Elisa actually, like I said, had a Tumblr, and in this Tumblr, she talked a lot about school stresses, about her identity, her mental struggles, wanting independence, and really just wanting to like see the world, which as a 21-year-old myself back when, I totally relate to her in trying to figure out who you were, what you're wanting, especially at such a young age. She was really just trying to experience life, and around this time, she actually dropped out of school after battling depression and bipolar. And then shortly after this, she decided to take a trip to start her traveling journey and to just kind of have like a fresh start in life. And again, as a 21-year-old, I totally understand wanting to remove yourself from where you're born, where you're from, whether it be a small town, a big town, the city. Sometimes you just want to go out and find yourself, and that is exactly what Elisa Lam was trying to do. In January of 2013, this is when she began her solo trip across California. And of course, this is something that even to this day, a lot of young people want to do. They go out and travel, and especially now with TikTok and Instagram and social media being so prevalent, it's something that we see a lot on social media that is being actually documented. On January 26, 2013, she did eventually arrive to Los Angeles, California. The hotel that she actually checked into was the Cecil Hotel. And if you are into conspiracy theories, true crime, ghost stories, or really anything supernatural, then I am almost 100% sure that you've heard of the Cecil Hotel. Just even thinking about the hotel like gives me like the heebie-jeebies and like Oof, it's a creepy hotel. The Cecil Hotel is known for many things, and it was actually rebranded back in 2011 because of all the negative light that has been shed on the Cecil Hotel and all the eerie things that have happened or have said to happen at the Cecil Hotel. Now, of course, this hotel has a lot of history on its own, but today we're not focusing on that specific hotel. We're focusing on the timeline of the disappearance of Elisa Lam. Obviously, if you guys want a full episode of the Cecil Hotel and any kind of supposed hauntings, ghost stories, we can dive deeper into this in another episode. You guys just let me know if that is something that you guys want to hear about. As for now, let's get back to Elisa Lam. Now, when Elisa checked in, she was staying in a shared hotel room, kind of like a hostel style room. And if you're unfamiliar with hostels, you can definitely look that up. They're very popular in like Europe and across seas, which means that you're sharing it with other people and you're sharing the living spaces, things like that. And at first, everything seemed normal with her and her roommates. They were having a good time, checking in, exploring, all of the good stuff that you're supposed to do on a trip. But after about 2 days, her roommates did start to notice some really odd behavior from Elisa. They said that she was leaving notes, that she was talking to herself, and she was locking all of the doors around the hotel room. So after the roommates did complain, they eventually moved her into her own private room. And shortly after moving her to her private room, she actually disappeared, just vanished. And the strange part about it is there wasn't any struggle, there weren't any witnesses that saw her leaving, and there wasn't any confirmed exiting from the building from anyone. At this point, when everything was happening, her parents did become really concerned because she just stopped contacting them altogether. And she was actually contacting them every single day, like texting them or calling them. And of course, obviously, her parents wanted her to make sure that she was checking in because she's still 21 years old. And obviously, to them, she is their baby. And so they found it very odd when she just absolutely stopped responding, texting, calling, or anything like that. And this is when the police obviously were called. And the police did a search of the hotel. They checked rooftops, they checked the hallways, they checked the rooms. On February 1st, 2013, this was the day that Elisa was supposed to be checking out of her hotel, and this is when she was supposed to be continuing her travels and going on to her next destination. There was a bookstore near the hotel that police did go check, and they told police that Elisa was actually there the day that she went missing. She had gone to the bookstore to actually like get some gifts for friends and family back home. The person at the bookstore that was talking to the police actually said that Elisa did not seem off at all. She didn't seem like she was having any odd behavior, and they actually said that she was very pleasant and very nice to talk to. After this conversation, the police continued their search throughout the hotel. And when they checked Elisa's room, remember she had switched into a private room, so she was no longer with any of her roommates. They went and checked her room and they didn't find anything. No clues at all were anywhere in the room. What they did find odd, and what I find odd as well, this is really strange, is that the room looked spotless. Like it wasn't even touched, which honestly to me is really weird. And it's not to say that when I travel I'm like a pig or like I leave everything a mess or anything like that, but obviously when I'm on a trip, which I know that a lot of people probably can relate to, you obviously know that somebody's staying in that room. You can tell by like the way that some things might be moved or leaving like a charger or something, your luggage in the corner, something. But this room did not look like that. Again, it looked like nobody was staying there. Again, after this, police continued their search around the hotel, but there was still nothing to be found until 2 weeks later. This is when police revealed the footage that they had of the elevator. And this is when everything in the story changes. Now, for those that are just listening to the podcast and you're not watching the actual YouTube video, when you do get some time, I would really suggest to go look up the video of Elisa Lam, the elevator video. You can look it up on YouTube. You can come back and watch it on this podcast video because I believe it is very important to watch the video in order to fully understand why this video made such a huge impact and why this case is really, really well known. I will try my best to describe the video for those that are just listening and not watching, but still, I really, really recommend that you go watch it when you get a chance. It's only about a 2.5 to 3 minute video. For those of you that are watching along, I'm gonna go ahead and play the video in just a little bit. Now, I do want to warn you, there's nothing gory, no blood, nothing that really needs to say like a graphic warning, but it's still a video that I would say going into it, just like a little bit of warning. Just a little bit of warning because it is a creepy, unsettling video. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and play the video. And for those again that are just listening, I'm going to go ahead and try my best to narrate the video. This video is stamped February 1st, the day that Elisa Lam disappeared. Elisa is seen to be entering the elevator, but like I said, something immediately feels off. She gets into the elevator and she presses multiple buttons. And then after doing this, she steps into the corner of the elevator. And then she does something that I find very strange as well. She peeks into the hallway, like coming out of the elevator. And she does this multiple times. She repeatedly peeks into the hallway of the video, kind of like in between the doors, kind of like looking to each side. And it kind of from the video looks like she's like hiding. And something that I find really odd is throughout the video when she's in there, the doors of the elevator never budge. Like they never try to close. They never like even just like a little bit. They don't move at all. The doors do not move. She steps out completely of the elevator and she kind of like looks around and you can see that in the video. And then she steps back into the elevator. And throughout the whole video, you can tell that her movements, they become very erratic. Her hand movements are very unusual type of gestures. It looks to me and to a lot of people that have watched this video, it looks like she's talking to somebody who's not there, like somebody invisible. And then it also looks like she's just waiting for something. I don't know for what. After all this, she leaves. She just leaves the elevator and then she's never seen again. This is the last video we ever see of Elisa Lam. Ever. This video spread across the internet so fast when the police released it because people weren't reacting to a crime. Like when we watch this video, we are not seeing anybody that is getting murdered. We're not seeing anybody getting assaulted. We're not seeing anybody that is getting hurt. We are literally just seeing and reacting to her behavior. And that is what is so unsettling about the video. And I think the reason for it is because everybody that watches this will interpret it differently. And I can tell you for sure that that is the case because the theories that have come out from this video are so crazy. And a lot of them. And obviously, we are going to discuss those theories further. But before we get into those theories, we're going to go ahead and discuss the video itself. And something that I find really interesting about this video is, like I mentioned, there isn't any violence in the video. Really, looking at the video, nothing significant actually happens. And you can see that if you've seen the video. And again, if you haven't, please take time to do so. Even though this video doesn't have any violence, it doesn't have any crimes or anything like that, almost everybody who watches this video, they immediately get this like uncomfortable feeling even before knowing what the story is about. Even before knowing the story is about, they get like this odd, strange feeling just from watching the video. And I think just noting that is really, really important because normally when something specifically scares us, we can like point to it and say, that's the reason I'm scared, or that's the reason why it's just giving me an off feeling. But in this video, there isn't anything like that because we are reacting to behavior we just don't understand at all. And to be honest, humans are kind of bad at that. I think a lot of us rely a lot on like patterns, and a lot of the times we do expect people to move in a very predictable way, especially in normal environments like the grocery store, sidewalks, elevators, things like everyday places. Obviously, when someone behaves like outside of those patterns, I think our brains just don't understand it and think, that's really unusual. So for our brain, it signals danger. It thinks that it is dangerous. And it's not because your brain confirms that danger is there and it's like ping 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 like danger. It's because with the brain, if something feels uncertain, it automatically is pinged as danger. The human brain is really an interesting place, and I'm sure that a lot of you guys know it, but if you don't, there is this strange psychological effect where a human brain prefers a bad explanation over no explanation at all. Because to us, a lot of us would rather think that someone is after her instead of accepting that we just don't know what she's reacting to at all. The unknown itself removes entire control. To our brain, you can prepare for a person, you can prepare for something or someone to be following you or the dangers that comes with that, but you can't really prepare for ambiguity. And I think that's why a lot of people start to really thoroughly analyze this video and even slow it down frame by frame, zoom in, look in the corners, look here, look there, pause to really try and look to see what they can find. Another thing about this footage is that two people can watch the same exact video and see completely different realities, different stories behind it. One person might see fear, maybe somebody else might see it more as like confusion. Another person could be seeing that it kind of looks like she's paranoid, and maybe somebody completely different says, oh, it looks like she's just like playing a game. Depending on who's watching it, you're going to get a different response from that person. And instead of this video giving any actual facts, it starts becoming more of like a mirror of whoever is watching the video. It reflects the viewer more than the actual events that are happening in front of us. And honestly, that's probably why this case specifically has lived on for as long as it has online, because it truly never settles into one specific interpretation of the video. It stayed psychologically unfinished, if that makes sense. So weeks after Elisa's disappearance, the hotel guests actually start complaining about the water. It has really low pressure, the color seems really strange, and it even has like an odd taste and an odd smell. On February 19th, 2013, Santiago Lopez, a maintenance worker, went to check out the rooftop water tanks. These were 1,000-gallon water tanks on top of the roof, and there was 4 of them. When he went to go look inside one of these tanks, he found none other than Elisa Lam. This is when even more theories explode online. How did she get to the rooftop? The rooftop had alarms and none of them went off. These doors were locked, and there was no witnesses that ever saw her going up to the rooftop. And to get into one of these tanks, she had to make an effort to get inside them. There were no ladders outside of the tanks, so when the maintenance workers had to go up there, they actually had to take an actual ladder to go up there. There wasn't just ladders on the side of these, because even the maintenance worker that went up there to look in these tanks to figure out why the water was being all weird, he had to take a ladder to be able to look in the tanks. And not to mention, to open up these tanks on top, these were really heavy doors. Like, so you can't just like lift it up like it's nothing. Like, you have to put effort into being able to get into these tanks. So of course the internet does what the internet always does. Started to fill in all these little gaps that we see. One of these gaps is that people find it fairly odd that during the initial investigation, the police actually did go up and investigate the rooftop, and they even took sniffing dogs up to the rooftop, and they got nothing. They didn't get anything. I also do want to point out that according to Elisa's autopsy, her cause of death was accidental drowning, with her bipolar disorder having played a very significant part. Elisa was found unclothed inside the tank with her clothes floating next to her in the tank. They also were not able to ever locate her phone, which I think again is really odd. Now, maybe it's just because again, she lost her phone, and again, like I said, in the Cecil Hotel, it's like right there by Skid Row, so maybe somebody took it, maybe it fell. We never know. We don't know. None of these questions were ever answered. Her phone was just not found. Now we're gonna get into a lot of these theories that have been out there online, and we're gonna discuss these very neutrally. We're not taking any sides, we're not endorsing any of them at all. We are just going to discuss them and kind of like dig further and look into that rabbit hole. The first theory that pops up is that somebody was following Elisa, and some people believe that she was actually hiding in the elevator, like hiding from someone. Again, looking at the footage, you can see that it kind of does look like that, and that she was actually reacting to somebody off cameras that we cannot see from that angle. That's again what some people believe. But again, no person ever appears in the footage at all. And like I said, her autopsy did come back, and investigations found no evidence of any type of assault on Elisa. Theory number 2 is that it was something paranormal or supernatural. This one specifically became really huge online because of where it took place, again, the Cecil Hotel, and also because of the footage. Because her behavior to a lot of people felt really unnatural. But I think discomfort doesn't actually equal impossibility. I think as humans, we're very unpredictable under a lot of stress. Theory number 3 is that she had a mental episode. As we know, Elisa was diagnosed with depression and bipolar disorder. And according to this theory, official explanation involves bipolar disorder and her having a manic episode. Just for those that are not aware with what bipolar mania can look like, during a mania, a person can experience paranoia, disorganized thinking, and fear responses, which obviously can make normal spaces feel threatening. And a lot of people say that this explains her hiding behavior, her gestures, her confusion, even leading up to her disappearance. Like I said, she did have to be placed in a private room because her roommates did complain of her behavior back then. But this still leaves like a huge question: the water tanks, and why the water tanks. Now, I do want to say that I think this case also says something bigger about the way we interact with true crime, because I feel like when information is incomplete, people don't stay in a neutral lane for a long time. They start obviously coming up with theories, and they start building their own narratives. And with the internet, it can definitely accelerate a lot of that. Thousands of people watch the same video at the same time, but instead of accepting uncertainty, they collectively tried to author their own conclusions. And I think what's really interesting is that theories often say more about our fears than the actual evidence. A lot of people suggested there was a stalker, it was a cover up, supernatural involvement, or secret hotel activity. And it's not because there's proof of any of this, of course, but because humans prefer intentional explanation for things. I think a lot of humans, and this is just me talking, we struggle with randomness and not knowing. I really think that what it comes down to is if something really, really bad happens without there being a villain or without there being an explanation, it feels unsolved. It feels like it's not done. Like we can't just close it and go about our day. And I think this is why this case became so controversial, not just mysterious, because people weren't just debating the facts of the case, they were protecting their interpretations. And I think there's also an ethical part to this as well. What it boils down to is that at some point, a real person, Elisa Lam, became a character in a storyline that millions were writing. And unfortunately, when cases become puzzles, empathy can unintentionally shrink. And this is not out of cruelty or on purpose, but it's just out of distance. So maybe the lasting discomfort of this case isn't just the mystery of it. Maybe it's realizing how quickly we turn uncertainty into our own narrative, and how uncomfortable we are with accepting things that just are left unfinished, and how sometimes some events don't end up forming a clean story. Sometimes the answer is simply incomplete. And I know that can be very, very hard to just accept. I know for me, I don't like when things are unfinished or they don't have an ending or they're not solved. I've gone through so many unsolved cases and they never ever sit right with me. So I completely agree that as humans, we want to know the ending of a story. Whether it's bad or good, we want to know the outcome. We want to know what happened. We want to understand who is to blame for this just so we can sleep at night, just so we can put a name to the story. I think that's exactly why this case went so viral. Obviously, this case went viral for many different reasons, but I believe that the reason it still continues to be a case that people talk about is because this case hit perfect psychological storm. We saw her last moments. We saw the video of her on the elevator. We saw her erratic behavior. We literally saw her before she disappeared, but the answers were still not answers. There was no answers. It actually, to me, felt like the video left us with even more questions. Like I said before, the human absolutely does not like a story that's incomplete because it doesn't feel safe to us. And this is where a lot of people started to invent their own endings. And unfortunately, I don't agree with going down that route because the more that we do this, the less that this becomes about our victim, who again is Elisa Lam. And it starts becoming more about solving one's own discomfort. I think the bigger question to this entire story is, why did this specific video truly disturb so many people? And why did it disturb them so deeply? Because again, the video did not show any violence. It didn't show any kind of assault. It didn't show any kind of crime. But I think more it showed so much vulnerability. It showed a person alone reacting to something only they could perceive. That's what's so unsettling. It removes us being able to point the finger to have a villain in this story. And it makes us realize that sometimes mysteries exist without intention. To a lot of us, that is so much harder to accept than actual danger. Elisa's case is actually a closed case. But many people disagree with this outcome because of all the questions that were never truly answered about this case. And because of this, the Elisa Lam case remains widely discussed, not because of what we know, but because of what we saw on that video. It is literally a moment frozen in time, interpreted by millions of people in many different ways. Thanks for listening to Unexplained and Unbothered. What do you think? Was this case just misunderstood, or does something actually feel off about it? Let me know what rabbit hole we should explore next. Until next time, stay curious and stay unbothered.